What's up, world? Isaiah here from Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Jasper, and Theo. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify with new episodes every Friday. We also want to hear from you between episodes, so follow our Instagram at Making It Make Sense IJT or email us at makingitmakesense@gmail.com. Now listen up and let's make all the sense. What's going on, world? If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Making It Make Sense. Today, we have a very special guest, one of our favorite guests, actually. Don't tell the others. And her name is LadyBoss. Welcome, LadyBoss.
Hey, LadyBoss.
Welcome. Hi. And it's mutual. You guys are my faves, too. So we all have that in common.
And LadyBoss actually did our very first interview when we announced that Jasper, Theo, and myself were going to be doing a podcast together. So literally we did the interview and then hopped right off and did recorded our first episode of our podcast. So we're really happy to have you because it's kind of a very full circle moment for us.
Yes, I broke your story first. That's right.
Absolutely. So Theo, actually, do you want to introduce our topic for the day?
But before I introduce the topic, I want to just let everyone know that they can go and listen to LadyBoss Let's Talk on YouTube. That's where we were interviewed by her.
Yes.
Or you can go follow her Let's Talk and Instagram on _Let's Talk 13. Is that correct, LadyBoss?
That is correct. You did your homework. I appreciate it, too.
And today what we're going to be discussing is this beautiful, obnoxious, annoying bill from Texas, which is called the Texas Heartbeat Act, and all the drama behind that. So Isaiah, let the audience know what the Texas Heartbeat Act is.
Okay, so everyone, on September 2021, the Senate Bill 4, which is the alternate name of that, which bans any person from providing an abortion-inducing drug to a pregnant woman without satisfying the applicable informed consent requirements for abortions, which includes providing the drugs to women 7 weeks into a pregnancy.
How nice.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So we're going to start. We're going to start with our guest, LadyBoss. What are your thoughts on this obnoxious?
Well, I appreciate you asked that. I mean, I lived in Texas before. I was in a bunch of states, but I lived in Texas for 3 years. And Texas is one of those red states that are gung-ho on a lot of things. And in Texas, I've lived in some others. I've lived in Georgia too, but Texas, to me, when I lived there, had a lot of the old school feels and let me elaborate on that. Like, they're really stuck in times when it comes to certain things. And one thing they're really stuck in time in is like a woman's place. And that was my experience in Texas, right? So this act that they went on and did, it's not shocking to me because it just goes right along with my experiences I've had in Texas. So when, and I still have a lot of friends that live in Texas that are females. And so when they were kicking this around, actually, and we were kind of talking through it, right? With some of my girlfriends, we were just kind of talking about how Texas really still has that old school feel and how they just try to control and monopolize a lot of things. So there's this thing of being able to remove the choice. So let me say first and foremost, what I would do with my own personal body and the choices I would make at where I am in my life is different than a woman actually having the right or the option to do certain things. So my position is this, and it's just really cut and dry for me. I may feel a certain way about me personally having an abortion, me personally, okay? And that may not be something I may entertain, but I also think about the woman that is violently raped, gets pregnant by the rapist, and you're removing that. I think about the young girl that has sex for the first time and experience. We've all had a first time, right? We all know what that looks like. Slips up, gets pregnant. I think about the person that maybe have had a bunch of miscarriages. And you know, the doctors are telling her that you probably won't ever be able to have a child, and then she gets pregnant, and then she's in fear of not wanting to go through another miscarriage again. So I think about all of those things and all those scenarios, right? And my life hasn't fit into all those scenarios, but I think about the women that those scenarios fit into, and removing that right from them is an issue for me. Because those things really do happen in our real life, right? Maybe not mine. Maybe you guys haven't had family members, sisters, or anybody that has had those situations. But when those situations happen, it's real world for that person. And to not be able to have all the options and be able to make a choice based on their lifestyle, that's a problem for me.
But you know what it sounds like also? Like when you just said all those things, you humanized it.
Yes.
You made it emotional. You made it personal. And I don't think that there are a bunch of women making this bill. This bill seems very detached, endless. It seems inhumane. It seems like it has no emotion, no empathy behind it. And the only way that this kind of bill will be present is when you have men leading the conversation. There is no reason why a group of men should be making laws like this, because just like what you said, it sounds very much like Texas is stuck in time. That
they are.
they think that women need the permission of men to make decisions for their lives, for their bodies, and for their futures. This bill just sounds very, it gives me shivers.
Well, I'll tell you a real life story. This is funny. It's not funny, but it just goes back to what Texas is. A really good girlfriend of mine is a pharmacist by trade. Okay. And so at one point they have 3 children. And at one point, and she's born and raised in Texas, she wanted to get on birth control because she didn't want to have another mishap. That particular doctor had asked her, have you discussed this with your husband? And she was like, excuse me? Now she's a woman like me, think for herself. She's like, what do you mean? Have I discussed this with my husband? And the doctor was like, well, I don't feel comfortable with prescribing you birth control. And it's not a joint want. And so when she came back, like later on that day, her and I was talking about it, and she's like, you won't even believe this. And she's just like, I mean, I've been born and raised here, lived here all my life, but it just sometimes still shocks me when stuff like this come up.
What in the 1833 is happening?
That sounds like the beginning of Handmaid's Tale.
That's a real story. No, that's a real story. And I was just like, I said, did you fire this doctor and get another doctor? And she was like, yeah, I mean, we've been with them for years. But yeah, I mean, her daughters go to this, like, this is a doctor that has birthed her children, see her daughters, because at that time, the oldest one was 18. Like, this is everything. Like, gave the daughter the first pap smear, like all of this stuff. Like, this is history. But that doctor asked her that and was very serious and did not prescribe the medication.
Wow.
Isaiah, what do you think about this ugly, obnoxious bill?
I mean, and I'm gonna agree with Lady Boss here too. Just in terms of why are old white men making decisions for women about anything? You know what I mean? I think there's something that's really important to remember. I had a friend recently say this, even in terms of, going through the pregnancy. I mean, without, aside from the fact that you participated, in the sexual act, for the child to get here, or for the pregnancy to begin, the woman is carrying and bearing the entire weight of pregnancy, including, the hormones, all of the changes to their body that are going on. And I feel like that's their experience and their experience alone. I mean, it's great if you have, someone there to go through it with you, but that's still her experience and her experience alone. It's her body. And I think it's just very representative of the fact that we're not as progressive as a country, even. I mean, let alone just the state of Texas, but we're not as progressive as a country as maybe some think we are. We're not as far ahead as some people think we are. We're still operating under this gauze that women are secondary citizens. They come after men. They're not really equal to us. And just even hearing that comment of, did you talk to your husband? No, did my husband talk to me about it?
Right.
Set that whole place on fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? Did my husband talk to me and address it with me? I'm the one carrying the child. And I think if you really remember that, just, from a space as a male, if you remember that much, that it's still her experience, her body is going through all of this, it really changes the way you look at everything associated with it.
Amen. Jasper, do you have anything to say about this one?
I agree with what has all been said already. As far as this bill, I do feel like it's this bill being created and was being created is very inappropriate, and it was like you said earlier. It showed that people who created this bill lacked empathy. They didn't think about the young girl, as Lady Boss said earlier, that has had sex for the first time and ends up pregnant, or the rape victim who ends up pregnant by her rapist. They didn't think about those situations because clearly they happen all the time. And so for them to think that they have the right to tell someone, especially a woman, what to do with her reproductive system, with her uterus, it's mind-boggling to me because who made them God? Who gave them the right and authority to say what a woman should do with her uterus? This is her body. So I think that the bill is it's tactless, tasteless, and it's trash. And it needs to burn.
I love it. See, that's the shade king I love. It's trash. Flat out trash.
Very trash, honey.
But can you imagine? I'm raising an 11-year-old girl, and when I hear things like that, it just makes me wonder, like, you know, who is going to speak up for her when I'm not around, or who's going to have her back when she's standing up for herself, because she's being raised to speak for herself first, second, and foremost. But who's going to be there to have her back in terms of laws and supports, and not have her out there alone and abandoned and feel beat down and less than? It's just very scary. Thank God I live in good old New York, where we don't play that shit.
Yeah.
Because
New York.
and especially when you hear laws and bills of this nature, you know that disproportionately women of color, Black women, brown women, Asian women are going to be the ones that are going to feel this the most.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, Lady Boss, well, how do you think this impacts you and your fellow sisters?
Like I said in the beginning, my personal views and how I personally feel about my body and what I would do, it's one thing, but I just don't like the government and states trying to step in and restrict and kind of control a situation. You know, we look at other countries like China where they control a lot of things. They control how many kids you can have. They control this. They control that, right? And we look at them as inhumane. We, as Americans, we look at them like they're absolutely ridiculous. But then we allow Texas to do something very close to it, right? And say, well, no, we're not going to allow you. We're going to make you take care. If you have a slip up, oh, well, that's your problem. If you're out there and you're in a place you don't belong and some man rapes you, oh, well, I was coming from work. I was in a place that I didn't belong in. I was coming from work, driving home, going to, feed my husband. And it just goes back to, again, like we look at these other countries, people or where they mandate certain things. But in this country right here and in certain states, we're allowing these same things to go on. And we're just like, it's okay. When did that become okay, though?
It's different because we're America, aka the hypocrites of the world.
Exactly. But it's just like, so now it's like, because we're big bad, are the other states looking at them like, Texas, you went too far? Like, who's going to tell Texas that they went too far?
Too far. So you know what it is? Someone's going to have to die, or something drastic is going to have to happen for these ignorant SOBs to pay attention. Women, and once again, I think when women discuss women issues, men should sit down and take notes. Okay. These are not women making these rules for other women and women taking notes. These are just a bunch of men who are oppressive and suppressive in their way of interacting with the world that want to make these rules for women because what? Do you feel that women are too outspoken, that women are too free, that women are too liberated? And again, I am a man and I'm open. I don't believe in abortion personally. Right. But I'm also not going out there having sex with women and getting them pregnant. But I don't believe that I don't believe that I should be making those rules for a woman. I don't know what a woman goes through. Yeah. I think a woman has the right to do what she wants with her body, and not a man in this world has the right to say yes or no. Like Isaiah said, women are the ones dying at birth.
Absolutely. Women are the ones. People forget that women actually die giving birth. Hello. People forget that. Like, and they forget it because it's not talked about as much as it was back in the 50s and the 40s, where it was very routine, but it still does happen. And people forget that.
Yeah. A girl that I went to school with, who was we're same age 2 years ago, died giving birth to her third child.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It happens. It happens more often than you think.
Exactly.
But I'm a man, so let me tell I should have a role in whether she dies or whether she keeps that baby. Like, down.
That's sick.
And just support you.
It's very sick.
Honestly, if the men were going to sit at the table and start trying to kick this around, it should have been a collaboration with women. The problem is, what I know is that what they would have done, there would have been a collaboration. They would have got women that have views like them. They wouldn't have got women like me that can flat out say, okay, now it's not for me. Okay, I wouldn't do this. However, I'm not gonna, restrict my fellow sisters that whatever situation comes into, I don't know, because everything is unique, right?
Yep.
I'm not gonna restrict them for being able to do it. They're not going to put women at the table that's going to think like that. They're going to put women at the table that's going to think just like them, that's going to say exactly what they want them to say and say, look, we brought one of y'all to the table and she said the same thing.
And that's funny. And that's funny you say that. It's conservative, exactly. And that's funny you say that too, because think about what happens in a lot of different instances. What ends up happening is, oh, you want us to bring a more diverse voice to this? Okay, so we're going to slap this color on them or slap this gender on them and pull them up to the table. And they think just like us. So look, it's diverse thought.
Yep.
Right? So it's just crazy. And another thing I wanted to say too is I hate that in order for someone to understand, or a set of people to understand something, you have to pander to their humanity on that level. You have to say, well, oh, but what if it was your sister or your daughter or your niece? Or why do we have to even say things like that? Why are we not already in a space of humanity on that level where we already just kind of go, listen, every circumstance is unique, so mind your business. Right? That's just it's incensing. It's like we shouldn't have to go like, oh, well, wait, what about the humanity in it? What about the mind your business? Because it's not your experience. You are not going through it.
Exactly.
You're
You
spot
know?
on it. But what about the flip side to it? Isaiah, you bring up a really good point. And when people always say, I'm okay with that, I never had an issue with that. But then when it hits their doorstep, when it hits their doorstep,
That's true.
now it's my 15-year-old daughter ain't having no damn baby. Yeah, I did say that I'm not for abortions. But hell, I was thinking when she was 25, 30 and got her degree and, got her job. What you talking about? My 15-year-old daughter snuck and had sex for the first time after we had all these conversations and you pregnant. Hell no, her ass getting in the Howard and she ain't having this damn baby. Now it's a whole horse of another color. And that goes back to in the United States, we're such fucking hypocrites.
Hello.
Because that's the thing. You're speaking on it because it's not you. And it's okay because it's not you. But when it becomes you, oh no, it's a whole...
I have a good question too. And what do you guys all think about this too? Like, just because I've heard this before, what do you say to the people that have the caucasity to say stuff like, what about the women using it as contraception? Now, I think that's a wash, but like, what do you guys feel about comments like that?
LadyBoss?
I mean, I do personally, growing up, knew women that did use it as a contraceptive. But again, I'm going to go back to it. That's their life and that's them. Some of those same women, they had so many abortions, they can't have kids.
True.
There's a cause and effect, but who am I to tell them that they shouldn't have done it? That's their body, that's their life, and that's them. They'll have to pay for that. I think in this world, we're so quick to say we don't judge, but we judge everything.
Yeah.
We judge every single thing. Again, that's not for me. But again, I'm not gonna. And even if we want to go a little bit further with that, okay. We could limit, like we could look at that if that's the case and say, okay, in a 3-year span, you can only have 3 abortions, whatever that looks like. You know what I mean? If that's what we thought the big world issue was, people was using it as contraceptive. If we really deem that to be an issue, we could say that, not say you can't have it, but just say, okay, every year you come in here around the same time pregnant because you go on vacation, whatever, and you come back pregnant. We do that. But to say you can't have it is insane. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but I like to say out of 100 women, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them are using abortion as a contraception. Majority of them are not doing that. So why are we focusing on the 2 or the 3 or the 4 instead of the majority, which is bizarre?
It's very bizarre, but I'm pro-choice, and so I just I feel
because
like
we gotta think about we're in a forward world as it relates to contraception now. It's so many so much birth control that you can actually use, and it's so many different variations of it to where some women with so many mechanisms that you could actually use to where a woman wouldn't have to use that as a mechanism of birth control. At this day and time, back in the 80s, they may have, but now that's not the case. It's so many ways. So to your point, you like a way to for contraception, you wouldn't have to.
But I'm pro-choice, and I just feel like at the end of the day, it's their choice. If it is used for contraceptive reasons, it's still their body, it's still her uterus. So if she wants to keep the baby or get rid of the baby, it's her choice. But I do think that there are situations that could possibly be where where a woman or
So
a
what do
girl
you
may
guys
use it
think is going
as
to
a method of birth
ultimately
control.
happen with Texas? Because one of you alluded to earlier that it could start this like basement abortions and stuff like that we had back in the 60s and the 70s, and people were dying. Like, outside of that, what do you think the movement in Texas is going to be now that they've signed off on this foolishness?
Well, I
Go
think,
ahead.
like you said, Texas is a little stuck in times in a plethora of ways, not only for women rights, but for also like Black people and
Mhm.
immigrants and a plethora of other issues. I think that Texas might be one of those random ass states that we're going to go back to the 1940s and 50s and 60s, where people are either going to do basement abortions, go to the state next door to do an abortion, or fly out and go to other states like New York and New Jersey, where you can get an abortion with no problem. But then I
Mhm.
think that people are going to be punished for having abortions.
Ah, got
Mm.
you.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're gonna be
Mhm.
punished. It's gonna be made where they're gonna be. It's gonna be major
That would be
consequences.
extremely interesting how they would do that.
I agree, though. I
Yeah.
think there's going to be, punishment associated with it. I think on the extreme end, you have a Handmaid's Tale type of thing
Right.
going on. That's on the extreme end of it. But I mean, I think a lot of people, hopefully, I'm kind of crossing my fingers for the not basement abortions and not even stricter laws than this. I'm crossing my fingers for relocate and just be like, listen, I don't deserve to live in a state that is restricting female care, reproductive care like this. So I'm going to move somewhere else. I'm going to go somewhere that actually values me and my body, and my choice for my body, and move somewhere else and live elsewhere. I mean, not that you should have to do that, and that's not what I'm saying at all, but because that's the space they're in right now legislatively, it's kind of like, what are the choices,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and let's pray for Texas because that's all you can do right now.
Yeah.
Yes, pray for them. Lift them up in prayer. We're gonna put Black Jesus on them
Yeah,
in
just
Texas
pray that
because
they
they
have
need
the
help.
understanding, like because again, it's just really outrageous some of the stuff they come up with.
But you know
There's,
what? This is why I love New York. Here, well, then I also hate New York at the same time. Here in New York, if you are 12 years old and you come up pregnant or you have an STD, and you need prenatal care and you need treatment, you know that you can do that without parental consent, and that can be a
Mhm.
confidential thing that your parent does not have to be involved.
Yeah.
well, in Maryland, it's the same way too. That's where I'm from.
Mhm.
Now the abortion part, I'm not sure about, but like the birth control and all that. Oh yeah, when you're that age, when a doctor has that Pap smear with you and all that good stuff, you can say I don't want you discussing
Yep.
with you can do that in Maryland as well. Hmm.
Can you imagine? There's a 12. I met a 13-year-old child who was pregnant, who the mother was trying to force her to get an abortion. The child wanted to keep the baby, and the mother was like, "Well, you got to get the fuck out my house." And they said, "Well, no, you have to take care of this 13-year-old child, and when the child is born, you have to take care of that child too."
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's the law here in New York.
Oh wow. You
Wow,
got
Jasper,
parents
what
like
is the laws
that.
down there? Is the laws as stiff down there with you guys too in Arkansas?
Uh,
A good question.
it's similar. It's similar.
It
We ain't
is.
Because you're
we
South too,
yeah.
so
Similar like what?
It's
Similar like
similar.
what?
like
They they
similar
they
to like
they have
where they can't have the abortions, and they like the contraception, like that whole thing. Like, or is it the same way, or is it
yes.
more like we're describing?
It's the same way. It's the same way with the abortion. They had the same issues with trying to figure out a way to quote unquote manage abortions. The same with they had the Planned Parenthood situation
Mhm.
down here too. So it's the same. It's the South. They want to go. They
Mhm.
want they want to stick in the with like you said the old school way of things, and then they think they can control women's bodies. And last time I checked, a man does not have a uterus. The last time I checked,
Period.
we don't have that.
Period.
We don't know what they go through. So that's
So we were thinking, Lady Boss, if you would so engage us in a little bit of rapid fire questions, just some, to come down off of the heaviness. Very important topic, obviously, but just to kind of shake it off, shake off the heebie-jeebie.
But before we go there, we
yes.
want to tell Texas, get your shit together.
Yes, please get it together. Okay.
yes. Get together, honey.
Women are not second grade citizens. We are equal. Give us the opportunity to have a seat at the table. Let's collaborate. And let's pick women that don't think the same way you guys do. Let's collaborate with people with open minds and do what's best for everyone, not just a specific group.
Absolutely.
Damn right.
Because we all know women are the backbone of the entire country anyway. So let's start acting like it.
Okay. Yes, backbone. Yes. Backbone, neck bone. Yes.
My back, my neck.
Yep, that's right.
Yes.
Just like that. Okay, so first rapid fire question. Lady Boss, tell us what you are currently watching, movie or television show.
You. It's you. It's I got dragged into that crazy thing, but that's what I'm watching. You. I got one more episode to finish. Yep.
Are you guys watching You? Oh my God! Don't you love Joe? He's creepy, but he's so good.
He's a creepy lunatic. He reminds me of Dexter. I don't know if you guys ever watched Dexter.
I'm familiar with Dexter.
Okay, well, he puts me in the mind of that guy. I mean, yeah, and I love Dexter, so yeah.
Right. Okay, what music are you currently vibing with right now, or artist? Go.
Afro beats. I have been, just a lot of that music. It's really calming. It's, you feel good when you're listening to it. Don't get me wrong. I love rap. I'm a rap girl by heart. But yeah, Afro beats has definitely been at the top of the chart right now. I've been liking that.
Your ancestors are speaking to you. That's why.
That's right.
Maybe that's why it's music to my ears.
Last place that you vacationed to and favorite resort in that location.
The last place I vacationed to was Antigua.
Nice.
And I actually stayed in Airbnb the last time I was there. So yeah.
Very cool.
I read a book by Jamaica Kincaid, who's an Antigua artist, and she with how beautiful Antigua was.
It's
to
beautiful.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been to Antigua through her books.
And it is very beautiful. It's a very, very, very beautiful place. So yeah, I enjoyed it totally. So much I went back twice. I went back another time, so 2 times. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. That's right. And tell us or recommend to us an author, a blog, some good reading that we should dive into, and our listeners should as well.
So this is the nerd side that's getting ready to come out of me. I actually like Edgar Allan Poe. That was some reading that I initially, and let me be really clear, I'm not a book reader. I'm not a reader. I had to read this for something I was doing in college years ago. I read his book and for my project.
Very nice. I love that. That's right. And give us an inspirational quote to close us out. What's your favorite one?
Inspirational quote to close us out.
Or even a quote that you love that just gets you going.
Your mantra. What's your mantra?
Yes, good. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, because I always post a lot of good stuff like that when I come across. But definitely I think inspirational, definitely live in your truth and don't allow this world and media to dictate who you are. Whoever you are, it's okay to be that person. Just stand in your truth and own it. Don't allow people to make you feel bad about who you are, because they're no better. We all have our secrets. We all have our quirks. We all have our imperfections, and it's okay. So yeah.
Amen.
I love that.
Jasper and Isaiah, what's a personal quote or among you?
Oh wow. Jasper, you go first. I feel
No,
like you're a little quicker. You want me to go first?
You go first.
I can go first. You know what my favorite thing to say is go fuck.
Wow. Well,
like
I did just come up with a little song, and then I was like, oh Lord.
So I live by that.
Well, I like it. Okay, so this I came across probably like a year ago, and it set with me. We are the new ancestors. Act accordingly.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mine would. Oh, that's a good one.
That is good. 80 years from now, they'll be talking about all the havoc we raised.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the things we fixed and all the things we tried to fix. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I like that.
Go ahead, yeah.
My mantra is, I take it from one of my favorite people, is don't come for me unless I send for you.
Yeah.
Period.
I wonder who's that from.
You should have that tattooed on you. That should be your intro to everything you get on, sweetie. How about that? That should be your intro.
I like it. I like
You
it.
know what? I'm not a Christian, but you know what resonates with me? And every time I hear it, a Christian family member said it to me years ago. Mm-hmm. She was praying for me and she said it. She's form against you shall prosper.
My mom loves that.
Amen.
That's one of her favorite.
That always resonates with me.
Yes.
And that in my life, when things are trying to come against me, you just see them fall to my feet, and I was like, oh, looking after me.
That's
absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah.
Glory be to Black Jesus.
Pastor Theo. That's right.
Sing Pastor.
Yeah.
You better preach.
You better say that good word.
I love a good sermon.
Again, I'm gonna just remind our listeners that you can listen to LadyBoss's radio show on Instagram, on YouTube, or you can like her page on Instagram _ Let's Talk 13, and Let's Talk is where you can find it on YouTube. And LadyBoss, are there any other ones that you want to let the viewers know?
Yes.
Oh, like you said, you definitely highlighted me, and I appreciate you for that. And like I said, guys, if you want to hear more of what I have to say and all the good stuff that kind of goes on, definitely follow me. Reach out to me. I'm always available. And I want to thank you guys first and foremost for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. You guys, I think, are great. You accent each other great. That's what I'll say. You are very different individuals, but the dynamic of all three of you is a force to be reckoned with, because you all bring a lot to the table. So kudos to you guys for that.
Thank you, LadyBoss.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, LadyBoss. Thank you for coming on and accepting our invitation to come on and join us again. And we appreciate you for giving us your time today and chatting it up with us. And and we got to do a little of the hot topics, so it was
Absolutely.
fun.
And we can't wait to have you on again, because this has been a true pleasure.
Yes, we can always do this again. Yeah, definitely. I always got time for you guys.
We love you. It's such a blessing.
That's so sweet.
Yes.
Thank you. Until next time, everybody.
Until next time.
Until next time, America.
Bye.
Bye.